Hello everyone, welcome to my channel RPG Retro Reviews. I'm Captain Courageous, and I review old school modules and games and try to give them a fun and informative analysis. This week I'm taking a look at yet another old school revival RPG, Whitebox, medieval fantasy adventure game. Getting its foundation from the original D&D Whitebox set of rules and the Whitebox OSR from the publishers of Swords and Wizardry by Fraud God Games, Matt Finch and Marv Bragg, this little digest-sized booklet has a lot to offer for the OSR enthusiast. But before we get fully into this OSR review, a real brief channel announcement. I would like to invite you to visit my Teespring store, Ye Old School Shop, where you can purchase Game On t-shirts, mugs, bags, and more. Another great way to help support the channel and get some great swag to bring to your gaming table. From your official gaming t-shirt to a bag to carry your game stuff, or just a mug to hold the brew of your choice while you slay orcs and dragons. Check out yeoldschoolshop.com. Patrons to the channel receive a 15% discount on all merchandise. The checkout code is in your Patreon messages. Links to my Teespring store, Ye Old School Shop, and purchase links are below the description. What other old school style images would you like to see? Please let me know in the comments. Alright, with that bit of business out of the way, let's begin. Whitebox was originally an OSR project by Swords and Wizardry author Matt Finch and contributor Marv Bragg, and released in 2009 by publisher Mythmere Games, which itself was a reorganization and representation of the original D&D rules. The game underwent several additional printings and editorial changes until it was essentially given to the OSR community by its creator Matt Finch. In 2016, Seattle Hill Games took up the banner for the system, and the game is currently in its second printing and in the very able hands of editor Charlie Mason, with several different covers and stock interior art by William McCausland. Under the hood of the game, it remains essentially Swords and Wizardry Whitebox, with single number saving throws and rules for both ascending and descending armor class. What this rule set does bring to the table is a tightly edited, well-organized, and revised old-school original D&D rule set that is eminently playable and provided in a digest-sized form factor. What I appreciated about this book, in addition to the very handy digest size, is that it does not assume that you're a veteran player looking to go back to the days of your youth, but a new player interested in learning about old school play. Which means at a cost of only $4.95, you can hand this book out to a prospective player and encourage them to read it and get them interested in playing old school. Another thing I really appreciate about this rule set is its failure to adhere too close to the source material. Yes, this is heavily rooted in original D&D rules, but not so much so that 40 years of gameplay is ignored and obscure wargaming hobby language is used. I encountered this problem with the OSR rule set Delving Deeper a few years ago. A game that adheres so closely to the language of original D&D that it copies some of the errors. That may be part of its charm, but in my opinion, it greatly limits its appeal. Whitebox is nothing like that. It's a complete rewrite of the system, giving it a shiny, modern, organized presentation that also still pays homage to the rule sets of yore. That's a difficult tightrope to walk, but Charlie Mason does this elegantly and makes it seem easy. Whitebox frequently provides a classic rule and then offers an optional house rule that might make the game more fun or playable. For example, the game says that when characters reach 0 hit points, they are dead, and then offers a less harsh method. In this case, a negative balance equal to your level results in death. 0 hit points is just unconscious. Ability scores are kept simple and modifiers of the -1, no modifier +1 variety, differing from the original rules in that such modifiers are provided for every attribute. But like the original rules, that modifier is kept minimal. Alignment is kept to the 3 traditional types, law, neutrality, and chaos, and characters max out at level 10, with rules for establishing strongholds for each class provided per the original rules. There are the 4 main classes, of course: Cleric, Fighter, Magic User, and Thief, with the Thief offered as an optional class. In the original D&D rules, there were only 3 classes. The Thief wasn't added until Supplement 1 Greyhawk. The actions that a thief may perform, such as picking pockets, opening locks, and such, is super simplified into a single ability called Thievery. It is resolved on the roll of a D6. Starting thieves achieve success on a roll of a 1 or a 2, and that improves from there gradually up to a 5 in 6 chance at level 10. I personally might allow Thievery to be improved by a +1 appropriate ability modifier score for such things as climbing walls or moving silently, though never above a 5 or a 6 chance of success, as there should always be at least a small chance of failure. The races for Whitebox are just what you'd expect: humans, elves, dwarves, and halflings. As per the original D&D rules, the races are not classes but are limited to certain class selections. Dwarves can be fighters or thieves, elves can be fighters or magic users, and halflings can be fighters or thieves. Of course, the maximum levels that non-human races can reach is restricted. What's really interesting is that as an optional role, a combined class of elf, that is both a magic user and fighter, is included, in a nod to future D&D Basic from Tom Maldvay. This option shows progression to 8th level, with experience points reflecting the additional abilities. Also, the hit dice for all classes and monsters is a D6, just like in the original rules, though not all classes get a D6 at every level. For example, fighters start off with a D6 +1 at first level and get a D6 every level thereafter. However, the magic user only gets 1 D6 at first level and then just a +1 at second level, and so on. Which brings up an important point about this rule set, and that is that players of the game really only need a D20 and a D6 to play. The other dice are not really used. Now, the Dungeon Master has charts and various checks that they will be using the other dice for, but players only need the D20 and the D6. Equipment for the game is as expected, just the basic requirements an adventurer needs to traverse the depths of the foul dungeons of the underworld the DM creates. Armor types are limited to chainmail, leather, plate mail, and then a shield. The rules allow for both ascending and descending types, thus providing a bridge to players of the game who might have only played modern iterations. Weapon damage types are all of the 1d6 variety, though many weapons have either a +1 or -1 to damage. Some players might wish for a greater variety in weapon damages, but this is a great simplification and keeps the focus of the game on the basics, favoring fun over complexity. Of course, a major staple of early D&D games that you don't see much of anymore was the hiring of assistants or hirelings to carry treasure, help in fighting monsters, and so on. Always a lot of fun role-playing out interactions with such non-player characters, and opportunities to introduce drama and conflict to a game abound, especially for those hirelings who prove to be less than trustworthy. Play of the game and combat is explained clearly, keeping things basic. A D6 is rolled for initiative, with each side taking turns appropriately. In addition to the typical methods for healing, such as potion and clerical spells, an optional role, or house role, has been added called Binding Wounds. Essentially, a character can regain 1d6 hit points right after a battle if time is taken to bind the wounds. Of course, only damage taken during that particular combat can be healed. This reflects the abstract nature that hit points are supposed to represent. Saving throws are greatly simplified, with a single number used and modifiers to that save indicated under the various class descriptions. However, if the group prefers, the more traditional saving throw style matrix can be used and is provided as an optional rule. Likewise, spell listings are descriptive with a traditional and easy to reference format. All spells are listed together by alpha, with the level of the spell, its range and duration bullet pointed for easy use. I personally prefer this method of spell listing. In older rule sets, spells were grouped by level first, then alphabetically listed, which means you had to know the level of the spell before you could look it up. Monster listings are by alpha as well, and the list is decent and reasonably comprehensive with the typical kinds of monsters that one would expect to find here. Once again, statistics are minimalist. Armor class, hit dice, attack types, special attacks if any, movement and experience point value provided for ease of reference. There is also HDE, which is hit die equivalent, which is basically the monster's challenge rating. Of course, monster listings from other sources like 1st edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons books, the original D&D supplements, or basic D&D can all be used here. Finally, the book ends with a comprehensive list of D&D magic items. As I said, the interior art is by William McCausland, whose quality pencil stock artwork has been used quite a bit in the OSR community and has become a staple of OSR publications. However, while used frequently elsewhere, the art that's presented here is appropriate for the sections it appears in and is very evocative. PDF is a completely free download, and you can get a print-on-demand copy from Amazon for just $4.29. These are the latest printings, and other than the covers, there's no difference interior-wise. The 3 cover artists are Eric Lofgren, Stephen Poang, and Michael Clark. Of course, I'm partial to the black and white cover, with a group of adventurers coming upon an evil priest in the midst of performing some foul sacrificial rite. Of course, given the price, I opted to buy one of each. So let's go ahead and take a look at Whitebox, fantastic medieval adventure game on my D20 scale of style, presentation, and value. Style-wise, I really appreciate the digest-sized booklet. It's lightweight and comfortable in the hand and filled with great old-school artwork and easy 16. The presentation is organized and easy to reference. However, even though this is only 140 pages, I can't let slide the fact that it doesn't have an index, so that's 2 points off right there. Also, something that is lacking is a sample dungeon. It really doesn't have to be anything elaborate, but a neat little dungeon adventure demonstrating the rules would be most welcome. My feeling is that this pocket-sized book is perfect for gaming conventions and one-shots, but you could totally have fun using it in your campaign. More importantly, I think this presentation makes it great as an ambassador game. A game that you can use to introduce younger players to the OSR, or for those who might be used to playing more modern versions of Dungeons & Dragons, might have a lot of fun with Whitebox with its simplicity and elegant presentation. This might be a lot of fun to break out in the event that there is a last-minute cancellation of the irregular game, and everyone can just roll up some characters in a few minutes and have a lot of fun with some old school gonzo D&D. I also feel that the simplicity of the system really caters to those who enjoy theater of the mind style of play. So I'm going to rate this a 16 as well. Finally, this game knocks it out of the park for value. A complete, fully playable fantasy adventure game explained simply and succinctly in a modern style for only $4.29. Digest size and super easy to get multiple copies in hand to give to your friends. And very handy to have around for a pickup game. To me, this is a natural 20 in that regard. It's a critical hit. So that brings my overall rating for Whitebox, the fantastic medieval adventure game, to a 17. Very good. Anyway, that's about all I have for you for now. I just thought this was a neat and interesting old school style game that I wanted to bring to everyone's attention. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video informative and useful and fun. Next week, I'm going to delve into a much requested module review, the last module Gary Gygax wrote for TSR, Isle of the Ape. As usual, I'd like to give a big shout out to all of you, my wonderful patrons, who have continued to support me and make these videos possible. Thank you so much. And a big shout out to those who have been with me for quite some time, my patrons Hall of Fame. If you enjoyed this old school review, please help support the channel by giving it a like, comment, and share. Check out my Teespring store, ye old school shop. follow me on Twitter, and check out my Facebook page, RPG Retro Reviews. Consider supporting the channel and more content like this by becoming a patron yourself. Or alternatively, you can just leave a tip in my PayPal tip jar. Links for everything is in the description. And as always, my friends, may your D20 roll true and game on.